Welcome to UC Collaboration, a global name in unified communication, formerly Voice Bootcamp. In this CCIE Collaboration Foundation Self-Study Kit, we're going to focus on Chapter 3, Endpoint and Basic Configuration. Some of the stuff that we will look at is service activation, initial configuration, enterprise parameter, registering the phone via the auto registration, for example. We'll go through some of the customizations, soft key, and phone button template as well. So the type of deployment that you'll get, most likely 3-site deployment with head office and 2 branch office. In this type of deployment, you will have centralized call processing with multi-site branch offices. So all your servers, for example, will be located in the head office subnet to a particular server VLAN. You will have branch office, for example, site B, which will use the WAN to register to this call manager. Now keep that in mind. Whenever you have a branch office, you have survival remote site telephony has to be taken into consideration. So when we go to that particular chapter, we'll focus on that in that scenario. Once the call manager is installed and you're logging in for the first time, one of the first things that we usually do is activate all the services. Now to activate the service, we have to go to the service ability page of the call manager and then click on tools and service activation. We need to select which server we need to activate the service. Once we do that, check all the services that you need to activate, or you can only check the services that you need and then click on save. Once that is done, it will take a couple of minutes to service to activate it, and then you should have your call manager ready for deployment. So I'll go and quickly show you how this is done with the call manager. So this is my call manager publisher, and if I go to the service parameter, service ability page, I will log in. Under tools menu, you go to service activation, select the publisher. Now in my case, my services are all activated, but in your case, if you need to activate, this is the procedure that you will follow. Now you check this option, say check all services after you selecting the server. Click on save, and this will make sure all the service gets activated, and when the service is activated, it will always be check marked there, so that if you do come back next time accidentally to this page, you know that service is already activated. If you need to deactivate a service, just simply uncheck it and save. So we won't do that. Once that part is done, then we're ready to move on customizing the call manager. Next step in call manager is to change the enterprise parameter. Now in enterprise parameter, there are a few phone URL that we need to change. Now by default, when you install call manager, what happens is this HTTP URL that you're seeing right here, they point to the IP address of the server, the host name of the server. The problem with the host name is that when Cisco phone receive this URL, it may not have a DNS server to communicate in order to resolve that host name to an IP address. So therefore you will get host not found error should you press any of the services. So to ensure that we guarantee that the phone will not have to have this problem, what we will do, we will go to the service parameter and then change these particular settings as per the requirement. Now this requirement of course requires you to change for all the services, both secure and non-secure phone. So we do that by going to call manager. Now once you go into the call manager, on the left hand side the system menu, you're going to enterprise parameter settings. Now there's two types of settings you have. You got the enterprise parameter and you got the service parameter. So you must check the enterprise parameter. So on the system menu, okay, so you notice how the menus are not working. This is usually I'm actually on the wrong server. supposed to be 21. That is usually your browser compatibility issue. So you need to change your, basically go to Tools menu, go to Compatibility View, and add that IP address. So on the System menu, go to Enterprise Parameter. Go to that section where we have phone URL, and you notice how it is using the host name. So what we're going to do, we're going to change it to the IP address of the call manager server. Now you do that for both the secure and non-secure. If in case if you are going to use IPsec encryption, then you must make sure that the secure URL also change. But for argument, for simplicity's sake, we'll configure both of them. Save this configuration. Once the configuration is saved, our next step is to focus on the additional services that we need to modify in enterprise parameter. For example, one of the things you may want to change is advertise G.711 codec. Now, if you enable this, when a G711 is required between the phones within a given site, by having this G722 enabled, the negotiated codec will be G722, not G711. So you need to, if you need to achieve G711, then you must deactivate the G722. BLF for call list. This is if you're going to enable presence native service. So in case if you need to do so, this is an option where you want to change. So these are some of the parameters that you may want to change. Like I said, not all of them are required to be changed at the same time. Next thing is to modify the service parameters. Call Manager has various service parameters that you can configure. Some of these service parameters are cluster-wide. Some of them are server-specific. So you need to pay attention to what services you need to activate, change. You can view a list of parameters and their description by clicking on the question mark, for example. So you can go to the service parameter by going to System menu, select the Service Parameter button menu. Now, these are some of the services that you may want to change. T302 transfer on hook, which will force the call manager to use a blind transfer. BRQ enable. BRQ is basically for gatekeeper. Call manager requesting gatekeeper for bandwidth changes. Device name of the gatekeeper and the host name of the gatekeepers are required if you are going to force call manager to register to the gatekeeper with port 1720. By default, call manager will use a random port to register with the gatekeeper. But if you do the last two items right here, it will force the call manager to use 1720, the regular H323 port. Additional service parameters, for example, if you're required to do a join across line policy. When you have two line on your phone and there is two active call, if you press the join button, what happens is it makes those two call join into a conference. So in order to achieve that, you must enable this particular feature. G722 should also be disabled in the service parameter. And then there are some other settings such as device mobility settings and presence settings that you may need to change. Now, to go to service parameter, we have to go to the System menu, select Service Parameter, select the Call Manager service, and what kind of services you want to change. So in this case, Call Manager. So in that particular service, like I said, there are so many different services that you have. You have to go through each one of them to make sure you change the right one, and you only should change the one that you need to change. If you are not sure about certain services, if you can click on the service, it will open up a new window with the description for that particular service. So once the service parameters is taken care of, now the idea about deploying Call Manager is to make sure you know exactly what services you need to change, especially for CCIE Collaboration Lab. Create a list of services that you're going to change. Come to this particular page and change all of them at once so that you don't have to keep going back and forth. Next step is to change the server name to an IP address so that we do not depend on DNS. DNS causes extra layer of latency as well as a point of failure. So Cisco recommend that you configure the call manager server from host name to an IP address of their respective host name or server. We do that by going to System menu, go to Server, click on Find, and then you'll see there's two servers you have, pub and sub. So immediately one of the first thing we do is change it to an IP address so that it does not affect any DNS related issues or host name resolution issues, for example. Now when you change the publisher, you must also change the subscriber to keep it all uniform. Now you notice we do have subscribers running, but we're not actually using subscriber to do our administration. So this is our subscriber server, for example, right there. But we're not using the subscriber to do our day-to-day administration. In the subscriber, we will put the subscriber IP address. So this is one of the first steps that you want to do to make sure that the call manager does not depend on DNS. Next step is to activate auto registration. So we have a call manager server. Now remember, in your cluster you could have up to 20 call manager servers, subscriber, one publisher, and up to 19 subscribers. However, only 8 of them can be call manager processor. Uh, Basically, in any given cluster you can have maximum of 8 call manager server that is acting as call processing. Now that means that only those 8 server where the phone can be registered to. So you will have maximum number of call manager servers 8. So you will go to the system menu, select Cisco Unified Call Manager. You'll see their name right here, publisher and subscriber. We're going to change it to IP address. And when we change it to an IP address, one of the things that we're going to do is activate auto registration. This way it allows our phone to register to call managers without any manual intervention. So we're going to do that by going to, so we go to System, System menu, Cisco Unified CM. So there we have pub and sub. So we change this to IP address of the call manager server. You can copy and paste from there, and we're going to enable auto registration. Now while we enable auto registration, we're going to have 3 sites whose phone is going to register to call manager. Now in order to save a little bit of time, we define the external phone number mask of HQ, so that way we don't have to configure external phone number mask for one particular site. So this will be like saving a couple of seconds of worth of time, I guess. Now we can repeat that for site subscribers. Defined. You don't have to enable auto registration on subscribers unless you want to make sure subscriber is active. So what we'll do, we'll say start from 50 to 1100, and again the same 403 2xxx. Alright, so once we have this, to ensure that both call managers have the proper settings, and we want to make sure that both call manager is part of your call manager group, we go to System menu, go to Call Manager Group. Now there's a default group which you can use, and you notice the publisher is included but not the subscriber. We will add the subscribers and make subscribers as a primary call manager. So whichever server is at the top is your primary call manager, whichever server is at the bottom is a secondary call manager, and the third server can be in the list, which can act as tertiary server. Alright, we'll go ahead and reset, save and reset. So we talked about the group where we define the subscriber into our list. Now you can have multiple group, but only one group can have auto registration enabled. So we usually keep the default as an auto registration. Date and time is required for each time zone that you have. So if you have three different locations, for example HQ, you have site B and site C, and each one of them happen to be in a different time zone, then you must create a date and time for each location. So what we're going to do is, because we have three locations, we're going to define date and time for each with a different time zone. So under system menu, you go to date and time. Now there's one date and time already called CM local. I usually change that to date and time group underscore HQ, and I make sure that this is Eastern time zone, sorry, Pacific time zone 408, so which is -8. Click on save. Then you can copy and create a new one, and let's call this side B. Now side B is central, so which is -6. Or CST, central, with a daylight saving. And we'll copy and make a site C, which is +8, pretty much in Hong Kong. So we saved three different time zone. We created three different date and time group, one for HQ, one for site B, and one for site C. Now region. Region defines the type of compressions or bitrate for basically codec for your voice call. A video call is bandwidth calculation. It comprises the sum of audio bandwidth and the video bandwidth, which however does not include the overhead. You specify the codec that can be used for calls between the device within that site as well as between other site. For example, you have calls within HQ and then calls from HQ to site B. Now the best codec is a codec negotiated by two endpoints, which is less than or equal to codec defined in the region. For example, if you have two phones talking to each other between two different sites, the region dictates that from site A to site B you're supposed to use G729, but the phone negotiated to use G711 because for some reason one of the phone does not support G729. Well, the fact is that phone negotiated G711, but G711 is less than or equal to more than or equal to G729, which is defined on the site. Therefore, that codec negotiation will fail. However, if the region says use G711, but the phone agrees to G729, then G729 will be used. So we will create a two region by going to system menu. You have a region created under right there, region information. So we're going to click on region. Now you have a default one. We're going to change that to HQ. And you notice it says from HQ to HQ use G64 kilobits, which is G711. You add a new one called RAG site B, and you're going to say from site B to site B we're going to use G711, and from site B to HQ we're going to use G729. So you can see the policy right here. Now we're going to add the last one, which is site C. From site C to HQ and site B, we're going to use G729. And from site C to site C, we're going to use G711. So you need to create a policy according to this and make sure that the policy applies as per your company's requirement. So we have right now 3 region created, one for each location. Next step is to create device pool. Now device pool happens to be the most important part of your call manager. Every device that is registered to call manager must belong to device pool. We create device pool by going to system menu, go to device pool. Device pool is like a common characteristics that can be assigned to devices. Regardless of physical location of the end device, device pool is used to group devices into single domain as if they are all in the same office. Each device in call manager must belong to a device pool. Device pool devices via the device pool will learn what codec to use via the region, which call manager to register via the group. Device pool devices will use device pool to choose the appropriate gateway, such as local route group, and it can also help you design a proper appropriate caller ID. And device pool can influence inbound calls as well. So let's take a look at a device pool. Under system menu, you have device pool right there, and we have a, if you click on find, there is a default device pool that is already created. In the default device pool, the name is default, and these are all the, it goes to a default call manager group. For example, date and time is HQ because we renamed it. Region, we renamed the default to HQ. So all this has to be configured according to particular site. So let's call this DPHQ. We'll change it. Same call manager group. Date and time group will be HQ, of course. Region HQ, and there's nothing else we need to configure at this stage. And we click on save. And like that, we'll make a copy and call the second one site B. Change the date and time to site B, region to site B as well, and then you save. Followed by for site C, change it to C, region C. There we go. So this is how you organize a device pool. So you have 3 device pool for 3 different locations. So all we have to do is now go to device phone. Depending on how many phones I have registered, as you notice, 1, 2, I have 6 phones registered at this stage, and then I can go to each phones based on my subnet where they're coming from. So let's say 64 right here, these are my HQ phone. So I will go to that particular phone, and I will change the device pool for that phone. Now device pool for HQ is already part of HQ, so no need to change that. So what we can do, we can go to the second one, the site C, which is 65, site B 65. We will change the device pool to site B. Now these two phones will become part of site B location. So going back to the second one, change it to site B, save. Now I have 2 more phone, which is HQ and site C. Site C phone will go to site C device pool. And here's the last one. So I got 3 location, 3 location. I got 2 phone in HQ, 2 phone in site B, and 2 phone on site C. So this is basically how you organize all the devices. So you have 5,000 phone register. You could use all 5,000 phone to register with, for example, a particular device pool. So you can go half of them in HQ, half of them in site C, and half of them in site B. So once this is done, next we move on to additional configuration. Now device pool have other settings. For example, mobility settings. It has incoming call number settings. We will talk about them as we go along. Then we look at the devices, which is under device menu. You go to phone, and you have all the devices of phones that are registered. So you can add a phone manually by click on add new and follow the instruction. When you list the phone, you should see all the phones that are listed in your call manager clusters. You can click on that name to modify them, change them, delete them, and need to do day-to-day administration. So for example, if I come back to HQ phone, I can click on this HQ phone, and I can click customize, saying HQ phone 1 X2001 based on my information. Save. And then once we define the description, we can add the extension as part of the HQ phone. So we have to go to each line of our phone and modify those extensions. You can go all the way to the section where it says line 1 on device pool, put the display ID, ASCII ID, extension could be, line text could be just extension, and your external phone number mask. And you do that for every single particular phone with the respective settings from their site. So when I click on save, back to the list, I should see information change as per my details. Now there are service parameters in call manager IP phone service. You know what IP phone service is? It provides access to various XML pages application. Cisco IP phone, when you press a service button, it will always look for a service either internally or externally, or it can do both. Internally, the IP phone service are provisioned by us administrator. List of services from configuration file will be then downloaded to the TFTP. This is the default settings. IP phone no longer need to contact an IP phone service first to receive their list of configured device. Instead, they can directly proceed to access the desired service. External, on the other hand, where phone service is not provisioned in the configuration file via the TFTP, and phone use only the IP phone service URL defined in the UR enterprise parameter. When you do both, any phone service provision will appear first. Configuration file that is configured will be appearing first, followed by any external URL. Now, by default, call manager is designed to have the Cisco phone look for internal service. And internal services are located under device menu, device settings, phone services. When you click on find, you should see these are predefined phone services that already exist. This is internal. External can be obtained directly from the URL that you define in the enterprise parameter where you earlier changed the host name. So you can create a you can change this setting saying that certain phone should not have access to certain settings. What we can do is we can create a common phone profile which allows us to disable certain services in a profile and apply that profile to the phone. To create it, we go to device menu, device settings, common phone profile, and then we're going to say that in that profile service should be provisioned from external URL. That means whoever belongs to that profile, it should point to the external URL to obtain the services. For anybody else that does not belong to that profile, should by default continue to use the internal services. The common phone profile will then be applied to the phone, whichever phone needs to have that. So let's create a common phone profile where we want to, let's say, activate only web access for certain phone. So if I go to device settings, common phone profile, click on add new, and this will be only for HQ. Or let's say, yeah, HQ phone. our video only profile. Let's say video on profile, because we in our pod we have 3 phones that are video enabled. So what we're going to do, we're going to apply this common phone profile to only those 3 phones, where we will enable the video camera should be enabled, video calling should be enabled, okay. So you click on save. Now we have 3 phones that are 9951, which if you go to the phone itself, you notice that 3 of them are a SIP, 3 of them are skinny. So the SIP phones are the 9951. So what we're going to do, we're going to use the bulk tool, update the phone, query. We're going to look at phone type, device type, 9951. Oops. So I got 3 phones that are 9951. Select. And what we're going to do, we're going to apply the common phone profile right there, called video on profile. Make sure you click on run immediately at the bottom of the page, otherwise you're going to have to activate the bat manually. Okay, so once we do that, submit. Give it a minute or so. You can look at bulk, job is scheduler, and then you'll see the update that we just made and it's completed. So now if I go to the phone, let's say HQ phone 1, I should have a common phone profile called video on profile applied to it. Okay, then of course you want to reset the phone so that this procedure can be in effect. If you do not want the phone to point to an external directory, then you can remove the directory URL from so to make it empty. So whenever phone is pointing to an external URL, and if it is not configured, it should give you a warning saying no service configured. Now Cisco allows you to configure ringtone on the phone. In order to configure ringtone, you must create a ring list file which define an XML object containing list of phone ring type. You can have up to 50 ring type. Each ring type contains a pointer to a PCM file, which is the music file. So the procedure for creating a custom ring list is to first create a PCM file called ringlist.xml. It is a case sensitive. Upload the new PCM files that you created to the TFTP server in the call manager. You can upload the music file as well as this ring list. You can use a text editor to modify the ring list, and then save your modification and close the file. Once you upload the file to the server, you may have to enable enable and disable this feature called enable caching of constant and bin file. If you don't do that in the service parameter, what happens is Cisco IP phone does not get the new FTP settings. So it's very important that you activate and deactivate that service. Now Cisco also allows you to change the background image of your phone. User can choose a background image from the list and from the file called list.xml. You have to first find out the folder name for your particular phone, because that folder name is very important, and you must create that folder name in Call Manager FTP server. Create a list.xml file. Now list is case sensitive, should be list L capital, and create a syntax something that looks like this with thumbnail. Each picture have 2 versions, one is a thumbnail and one is a full version. So you need to upload that picture to that particular folder called 320.212.16 for the phone type. Upload this file to the call manager. Reboot the all the phones. so that it can download the new list.txt file. Now you gotta make sure the full size image should be in this particular file size. The thumbnail should be in this file size, and the color plate that you need to use is 16-bit color. So it's very important that you create those images as per those requirements. So first module, to make sure that you got to activate the service, change the host name to IP, change the enterprise parameter if need to, service parameter, make changes to the parameters that you're going to use throughout your system, make some initial configuration, register the phone using auto registration, and customize the ring list or background images. So that's pretty much the chapter 3 of this particular module. I'll see you in the next module.